Vicious Point was once the heartland of Fewladelphia, with its expansive port trading goods across the globe. Alongside the shipping boom came rapid development, with people flocking to the area to take advantage of the close proximity to jobs. In the late 17th century, a canal system was constructed, with the primary purpose of facilitating easy trade to the port from the old quarries and farms along the Fewhaven River, and alongside that they also fueled further urban development in the district. So today we construct the historic Vicious Point Canal network, which has been modernised at various different times across the years and now represents all the various points in history of Fewladelphia architecture. Let's dive in. We're kicking off today with a quick time-lapse to terraform the shape of the rest of the old port area, which we'll be coming back to in the next episode, but I wanted to get in the rough land guide now, so that we can appropriately add our canal networks into the shape of the port area so that it does make sense that they were constructed for ease of trade direct to the port. So the general idea that I was going with is that they cut off additional time sailing all the way round the peninsula. No, it's not that far, but that's what we're going with here. And connect directly into the main canal channel, which runs through the back of the port, connecting all the basins along the coast and then directly out into the various different docks. And when I was doing a bit of research on this, I also learned that they were often constructed for the purposes of defence as well. Well, also water irrigation, which could be a thing in this peninsula. But I thought the defence point was interesting. And I think that makes sense in this space, given the fact that the old downtown capital city district used to be based here. So essentially for this episode, the idea is to build a continuation of the old town district that we started last time, but blending it out to some lower densities, much more row housing than the medium density that we kind of focused on in the main town centre. And again, we're going to be mixing in a lot of different styles, so more of the historic looking French and German assets, blending in with some US Northeast, exactly like last time, and a few even of the more modern Southwest assets, but we're aiming to get the effect of different areas of it having been knocked down and redeveloped over time. And we are going to be steering away from services and industries this time, but we will be adding a lot of those around the docklands in the next episode. So it's a little rough around the edges at the moment still, but it gives us the basis of a canal network to work with at least. So I do just want to now go in and put in our road network so that we've got a framing to work from. But for the moment, we're just going to put in the key roads. Now, I want this to feel kind of blocky, but similar to the previous area of Vicious Point that we did. So it's not going to be kind of uniform grids. It's going to be a little bit more European in style. So roads going off in different angles. Obviously, we've got these big square areas in the middle here. So I think what we'll do for that is maybe build a road with Road Builder actually in a second, which has got quays and parking around the edge and just smaller roads so that we can have a few row houses dotted into these blocks. I think would be quite nice here. But that gives us one larger connection through, and I've realised some of these aren't forming bridges properly, so we'll go through and fix those in just a second. I think we will actually upgrade this to the slightly larger suburban street along here, and we can re-put in the key edge. That's not an issue. And then if we bridge across this section and continue on down here, we can connect in there, and that's going to be quite a nice straight-ish road at least. And we can go through and do what we did previously, like put in little humps into these roads here. So if we click on the section of it with Move It and just raise it up a little bit, that's going to give us a nice little arch bridge. And the best thing about this is, as you can see on the bottom here, it also kind of closes down the gap that we're going to see in the canals, which is going to be a really nice effect, I think, as well. Make them feel a little bit narrower. So we've obviously got some terrain tidying up to do there, but that's okay. And I think on this side of this, we'll have a more pedestrian area over here. We do want to join this up to this road though. So again, let's go ahead and do that. I think I am just going to use alleyway roads for this, but maybe we'll do a bit of a one-way section again so that we get those alleyway roads that have the parking on the side of it, like we did in the previous area, which I think just always gives such such a nice little effect. So we'll have one road going that way, and then potentially let's bridge across here as well. We're going to need to flip this around. In fact, we're right-hand drive, so let's do that the other way, which gives us a bit of a loop there. And then I think for here, we can just continue this on. So I'm not going to worry about the heights for now. Like previously, I'll just go through with Move It and tidy these all up. Yeah, because that is not what we want. Although I am seeing now that the key wall does actually get rid of the parking, which is not exactly what I want here. So what I think I might do instead is actually pull this a bit further away, and we'll put in a quay with a pedestrian path on it round the outside. Now, I can't seem to downgrade the roads here, so I'm actually just going to re-put them in and see if that will fix the issue. Which it does, nicely. So yeah, we can cover some of this up with some nice surfaces, like that little gap there, and tidy it up. But I think that gives us a little bit of a palette of what we want to work for. And let's change this bridge here as well. We'll also do a little hump in it, why not? It actually also opens up that node, so a bit of a double whammy in one here. Although we do want that to be central, so let's just do a little bit of fiddling so we get the hump in the middle there. Okay, that's not too bad. I just realised that one looks super odd as well, so we may change up some of the road types as we go around. But at least that gives us a little bit of a palette, I think, for what we want to work towards around this area. So I'm going to go around now and fill out the rest of it with this same design and just tidy it up so our road networks are all nice and ready to build with. Just like that. Now, I will admit that took absolutely ages. I think the trickiest part was kind of trying to line the quays up sensibly with the bridge roads when they're at the edge. Like, it's very easy to put in a humpback bridge across quays in the middle, but when it's at the corner of a canal, it's much more tricky. But I think we've kind of got this all right. I had to do a lot of move it work to align the bridges so they were sort of central to the canals as well. Like, it was a massive faff, I'm not going to lie, which is why I saved you the pain of watching me try and play with all of this. But I think we've got some sort of interesting road layouts here. If I go to the roads, you can see the one-way road system, and it's like a giant roundabout in the centre part here. And then we've got other little sections of one-way road coming around the edges of the canals in other places, like over here and here. And backwards and forwards this side as well. And like I said, the reason for this really is the fact that we get parking on these nice little one-way alley roads. So we can have parking up against the quay canal walls, and people can walk along those walls as well. So I think once we get in some street trees, some nice surfaces around here, it will look pretty cool up against all of our housing. So I'm going to start off with actually the sort of what I'm going to call the beachfront, but it's barely going to be a beach, not in the traditional sense at least. And I think the assets that I'd like up against here are actually some of the, we're mixing styles again here, the southwest row houses. So particularly these ones where they've got the little balconies that can overlook the beachfront and that sort of thing. I think this could be quite cute to have along here. So we've obviously got different levels of them. We can have a couple of ultra modern buildings in here, and they're only 3 deep as well, which is really nice. I think the other thing I really like about this is we can get in lots of different bright colours, and there's different heights, so like people have renovated over time and all of that kind of thing. So let's go for the red. I want the red back. There we go. So yeah, I think we'll come onto the beachfront in a second, but I think this is going to look quite nice here. It's really annoying they're deleting the car parking spaces from this road. I did not realise that they were going to do that, I guess because they're connected. I mean, yeah, that sort of kind of ish makes sense, I suppose. So I'm going to have to do something about that, which we will do, we will fix. So I'm going to continue this all the way along here. Like so, and that gives us a really kind of arty, trendy, colourful waterfront housing space, I think. Now in here, I'm going to put in a bit of a town centre into this block with the tram flowing through it. So we'll have a big plaza area and we'll do some fun stuff in that in just a second. But what I do want to do is kind of transition into more of this slightly lower row housing at this end, with a few medium density sort of condo blocks and some of our older style buildings. So I think where we've got the French high school here, we definitely want some French assets or German assets potentially in this block. And I think we will go for mixed use here as well, because that's going to frame really nicely onto our town square, I suppose, this side. And a little French combo like that I think does look quite nice. We'll give it a bit of breathing space to the actual road here too. Now we haven't got parking up these roads. We have on this small section but not here. So potentially good to put some parking behind this. But we'll see. I'm hoping as well if we get some assets into here that they are actually going to connect onto this road so we can make them functional. I'm hoping. So if we drop those in and move them back. They are not connected. And they would be connected if they're there. But that is simply way, 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 way too close to the tram tracks. So, yeah, we're going to have to do something with that. So if we add a very small pedestrian street into there, so the one-way, narrower pedestrian street, we can actually squeeze these assets in next to it. So we've got a little bit of overlap, which I think we're going to have to live with, and we'll get rid of this asset and place something else more suitable onto this corner. I think that'll be okay, and then we can continue this block round and get a really nice block of mixed use / residential in here. Yeah, okay. Pretty happy with that. And actually, to be honest, we could just do with getting rid of some walls here, but actually the middle's worked out quite nicely with these assets. And then again, in the interest of transitioning down in height, I think I'm going to use some of these German assets along this part of the canal behind our southwest row houses. Because if we take a little look at them, I mean, they've got super European fronts, which I think goes well with our canal district, but also we've got these little sort of balconies on the back, which I think behind these houses gives quite a nice effect. I mean, that, now that I look at it, is quite blocky in terms of height, so I'm wondering if we can vary that up a little bit more, which we can. We can use some level 1s in here as well. So now if we take a little look at that, just with that slight variation in height, I feel like that looks a little bit better. The level 1s are kind of a better height, I think, for sticking behind those row houses. I'd also like to scoot these up a little bit so that we can create a bit more of a block here and potentially do something around the edge of this road around our town centre. So let's grab all of these and we're just going to scoot them up. They're actually all in a straight line even though they're on a curved road, which I'm kind of fine with actually. We can just move them right up against this side alleyway road over here. And then we can also just scoot these ones up too. We could potentially switch this one out for a corner block actually. And yes, that works much more nicely on the corner there. So now we do have a little bit of space this side. Let's perhaps remove that house there. I do need to sort out this road. I will sort out this road. And then we'll come back to, I think because we've got France along here, I'd like to get something more German, maybe even northeast along here. So let's take a little look at that. We need some narrow buildings for sure. And I want something that's going to kind of complement the height of these German assets versus these row houses as well. So something possibly in between like this asset here. We've got a mixed use with shops on the bottom. That one's a bit higher. Maybe stick to level 1s and level 2s for this. And yeah, that's a little bit lower than the German asset there. That one's okay. And in fact, actually, let's do this. Let's put the lower one on this corner and the higher one over here. We'll worry about the backs of these assets when we come to do some detailing. Yeah, okay, I don't mind that. I am worried that these houses are feeling a little bit dwarfed though. So I'm wondering if we can find something maybe a tiny bit smaller than these. And this is kind of the trial and error that I go through. I wanted to sort of show you this process for at least one block so that you can see the types of things that I'm thinking about. Actually, these northeast assets are really quite nice. So we could go for something like this. Yes, it doesn't quite have that European vibe that we did have before with the German assets. I really like this building on the end and the fact it's bright blue as well. I think kind of complements the colourful vibe that we're going for with this Fisher's Point waterfront, beachfront if you want over here. And yep, I do feel like those heights are much more appropriate. These houses don't feel dwarfed anymore. So I think that that is a better look there. So yeah, mixing in a bit of northeast on that corner next to our French assets. We could probably do a little bit of German in here potentially, although I'm thinking I'd probably like more traditional row housing as we head away from these blocks. So we'll have something larger in this block right here, more along the French-German lines, maybe with a northeast one mixed in one corner, and then transition away to row housing in these back blocks is what I'd really like to see here. I do really like these German assets. And if we take a look at the height again here, they're sort of peeking out over the top behind those northeast assets. So again, it gives us that slight kind of change in height layer, which I really enjoy. So let's plop this in. Let's maybe do 2 of these back to back actually, and then we'll find some appropriate corner assets to add in. And then at this point, I think we are going to switch it up for something a bit more modern. Like it could even be this Chinese asset here, which I know doesn't really go with canals, but bear with me. We're going for the vibe that we went for in the last episode, with Fisher's Point being quite eclectic in nature. So let's just take a look at this, and it does help to get rid of some of those big white walls that we have on the ends of the German asset. But I think we could do with moving it over a touch, potentially even aligning it differently. So something like that I quite like actually. You can see again just that extra spike in height. We're definitely going no taller than that in this space, no more huge office blocks over here. But yeah, that little bit of extra height there I think works quite well. And we're obviously going to be coming around and doing all of these surfaces around here to fix them all up. And then if we scoot on over here, let's have a little look at some more row housing. So I think we're going to have to go 2 deep and go back to back, which feels like probably the most appropriate thing for this. And the European ones obviously scream out as being highly appropriate for our canal area. So we can definitely utilise some of these. So I'm just going to mix up the types a little bit and leave a few gaps here and there. Yeah, I like that. Gives us a nice little row house neighbourhood here, again with various different heights. I think for an area like this, we don't want to have loads of repeated assets of the same style of row house. I think we do want to mix it up and be a little bit more selective and kind of, I guess, eclectic in the way that we approach this. See, again, because I don't really want the plain walls right on the end, I might delete these out and find some sort of smaller medium block that we can add into here. Probably not a French or German one. I'm thinking more kind of, actually, maybe even base game EU for this. We do have these assets actually, which are base game North America, which I quite like the look of on the side of these row houses actually. Although they have got basements, which I don't think is very appropriate for a canal district. Can we ignore these? And this one actually sits perfectly on this corner. We've got a little back entrance in there. The windows aren't interrupted at the top here, so that feels quite nice as the little combo on that corner. So yeah, that is the general idea of the assets we want to put in. This asset is having some problems, so I might have to move this around a touch until we find an ideal location for it. Now, just before we revert back to the beachfront, a quick word from today's video sponsor, which is Instant Gaming. If you're looking to pick up any of the Cities 2 content creator packs, including leisure venues, Mediterranean heritage, modern architecture, or even the base game of Cities Skylines II, or indeed a whole host of other games, including Farming Simulator, the whole Sims shebang, Planet Zoo and all of its corresponding DLCs, then head on over to Instant Gaming via the link in the description below to check out what amazing discounts they offer and also help to support the channel. Plus we also host a monthly giveaway for the FewCandy community where you could be in with your chance of winning a game of your choice. So head on over there and bag yourself a deal. Okay, so I have gone ahead and dropped in some more assets to fill some of our blocks. I've also sorted out this road, which I'll come back to in just a second. So we've continued on the themes that we've talked about. I actually did a bit more southwest, very small, medium blocks out here, because I kind of want to go for the effect, again, which we talked about earlier in Fisher's Point, of a lot of this area being modernised over time. So that's what we have in here is much more modern assets in places. in and around some of the sort of older style street housing. And of course, as we graduate this way, we go towards French and German and much more of the old town of Fisher's Point. So yeah, again, here you can see some of those southwest condo assets coming into play on this corner. So we've got a lot of space around these assets as well to fill in parking. So I will be putting in parking spaces around some of these roads here. Obviously we've got parking on the roads all in this section, and then up here as well. I actually changed this internal road to a two-way alleyway road so that we can add parking spaces in some of those gaps. A nice little alleyway through to the front road. Yeah, a little bit of fusing going on here, like these two northeast US blocks, which I quite like on the corner here. And also this, which I really like, which is a row house stuck into the side of another row house, which gives this really nice diagonal corner. So yeah, quite liking that effect, although I probably should have made them the same colour, so we'll change that later on. Now yes, on this road, I have actually just flipped it round, basically. I actually created a road in Road Builder, taking this one, so the base game road, as the template, and then just adding in another lane of traffic here. So we actually now have parking on the side of the houses, on the side of the road too, which I don't mind because I'd rather have parking outside the houses, I think. And then we got the parking, which was going to be facing our beachfront, which we're going to come on to just now. So actually, I think in some ways that actually works quite a bit better. Although I have just realised my mistake here. Let's edit all instances. We have got them going the wrong way. So let's flip that round, and that should now be correct. Oh, it's converted it to the American markings. That's interesting. Okay. I guess it was white because it was one way. I was a little bit confused about that. So there you go. Okay, right, fixed now. So anyway, that gives us the parking we need on this beachfront, and actually, like I said, I think it's actually worked out for the better. We do need to realign this bridge road in the middle here because it was, of course, aligned to the lanes that we had previously. So let's just go ahead and do that. And that's a little bit better. So now down this end, we're going to have some, I think, luxury beachfront mansions with their own sort of docks and that kind of thing. And make it quite a different vibe out here and going out onto this island as well. So we are going to come back to that in another episode. I may fill in these two little blocks later with the detailing time-lapse, but let's talk about this beachfront. Now, what I'd like for this is it's not really going to be, like I said previously, a tourist beachfront. It's going to be the tiniest little beach you can possibly imagine, like a kind of, I'm imagining it's probably actually a stony beach, if anything, but we will use a bit of sand to detail it up. But it's going to be the type of place that people might go and sit and watch the sunset rather than go and chill and hang out on the beach all day and build sandcastles and that sort of thing. But what I would like to do is actually add in a bit of a quay wall up alongside this tram line here. So I'm going to turn off all snapping for this, and we're going to try and follow it around loosely. We're going to leave loads of space, so all of this can be a big, big promenade over this side. And yes, we'll hook it into the quay here. Then we'll continue that on round this side. Again, just trying to keep it as even as possible to that tram track. It doesn't matter if it's not absolutely perfect. And then we'll bring it up to here. I don't really want it connecting into the boardwalk out there. And let's actually just extend it a tiny bit further this way, like that. And then what we're going to do is upgrade it to a quay wall on this side. And that just reminds me, I've not done what I was planning on doing here, because of course the quay walls force the ground down to a certain level. So yeah, that's not what we want here. We want the tiniest little strip of quay wall that we could possibly see. So we are actually, I'm going to change my mind on this, upgrade this to just a pedestrian path, and this is actually our extra wide one here, which makes it a little bit easier to landscape around. Okay, we'll get rid of that connection in a second. And then what we can do with a much nicer effect is upgrade this to a little quay wall here. So we're going to get that fence along it, which will be quite nice. And then we can come in and terraform at the bottom of it just to lower this ground just a tiny bit. So I don't want anything significant here, and we're already quite close to the water's edge, so this could cause us a few little issues here. But I'd just like to have a slight separation and a tiny bit of wall. And it doesn't look like the water's coming in, so that's all right. Before we hit the beach. And we're going to make the water come up a lot closer, so let's also do that. So we're just getting that tiny strip, like I mentioned. Then out here we'll do some nice, I think probably boulders or something to that effect along the edges of where the canals come out. Yeah, now I've gone too far with it. Let's bring that back up a level. So yeah, just like that is what I want. So we have got this wall in between the big sort of beachfront boardwalk and the actual small, tiny little beach area that we're going to have in here. And we need to do the same thing this side. If we get the water in like that, I'm just going to re-terraform it and then grab our level again and see if we can make it a bit nicer. So we are getting bits of patches of water kind of coming up to the edge, which isn't ideal. So we want to try and go as low as we can go without the water coming up to the wall, so we still get that small strip of beach. Yeah, it is something like that I want. Now I would like to allow access down onto the beach, so I'm wondering if we can connect in just a few small pathways. And yeah, it's going to make it super ugly, wow. Let's see if we can cover those up with a few surfaces a little bit later on. I'll just raise this up a tiny bit, but just a few little breaks in the wall I think would be nice here. We could try and put in some makeshift stairs or something of that description to get that in nicely, but oh wow. And having put that one in, I do think we'll actually make this our extra wide path here, because I think the entrances down to the beach would want to be a little bit wider for sure. And we do also have a tram stop right here, which is kind of handy for that one. Another tram stop right here, so you can get off the tram and straight down onto the tiny strip of beach. Now one other thing I am going to do here is also put in these small sections of walls going down into the water, which is quite often found on sort of small strips of stony beach, I think, like this. I'm not entirely sure exactly what their purpose are, but I'm actually going to look it up in a second, so maybe I can enlighten you later on in this video. Or if indeed you know, let me know in the comments below. But I think these would work quite nicely to sort of complement the end of the canal and also the boardwalk that we've got over here as well, just to kind of section off these parts of the beach. And it would be good to kind of have them crumbling and that sort of thing a little bit, but yeah, we'll see. They also sit really oddly on the ground, so I might switch these out for props actually later on, but I think that's going to work quite well. So there's a lot of surface work to be done on that beach area, also on the promenade, so we'll make this a really nice kind of cobblestoned, potentially, boardwalk area for people. Put a few newspaper stands and ice cream cart or something like that along there. I would love to put in bike lanes along here as well, and definitely all across this area, being that it's quite European in this place, if and when we ever actually get them. But that is, yeah, I think that's all the assets in, so let's go ahead and just dive into a pretty large, as always, detailing session. Okay, so we have quite the little bustling canal district going on here. And there's a lot of people moving around, which is great to see, all the different tram stops. This one still needs detailing right here. But yeah, there's a bunch of people, and in particular, I'll come around to it in a second, the town centre is awesome. Like, we've got people walking up and down the beachfront here, which is great to see, also on this side. But yeah, this little town square, having put this walkway in, this invisible pathway, which we've obviously detailed up between two pedestrian crossings here, we have a lot of people walking up and down it, which is super cool. Super pleased to see that. Yeah, really liking this little area. So we did actually make this town centre kind of multifunctional, I suppose. So we've got a permanent cafe going on in this corner. We obviously got our fountain that I think we put in the last episode. Pretty sure we did. It's taken me 2 weeks to record this one because of a holiday in the middle. So I forget what I did before and what I didn't. But yeah, we've got a little cafe over here with a functional commercial building, which I think is a nice little touch in this space here. We've got a fountain plaza over here, very open, just a few benches, bins, a couple of the food trucks going on. And then in this space, we've got a more open area, which I thought could be a kind of function area. So we've got a stage going on here with a bit of a cordoned off backstage area, some mobile portaloos, a couple of food trucks going on, waiting for an event to start perhaps. And then also the final little thing, which I thought was a nice touch. We have what I'm going to call a war memorial here, which lines up perfectly with this canal, which I'm quite enjoying. So actually, if we go down and look at the view from this direction, you can see that here. So I thought that was quite a nice little spot to put it in, particularly if we're going down the line of the canals were built partly for defence of this old capital city. Then I thought that was kind of appropriate. Maybe there was once upon a time a war of some description here. And I was thinking on that note, the French high school here could have once been a government building. And so that was the main thing that they were perhaps trying to protect. It did also occur to me afterwards that I probably should have put like a nice big cathedral or some kind of historic artefact maybe on this little island in the middle, but we haven't done that. Never mind. But yeah, there's lots of cute little things all across the different street corners. So like here we've got a few little benches followed by another cafe area. Oh, we've got people walking along the quays as well. Wonderful, wonderful. Loving this. Kind of jazzed up the old Chinese tower over here with a few flower beds where they actually already had grass marked in the bottom of the asset, which I thought was quite nice. But yeah, loving the streets with the cars lined up against the quays, like sort of busy back streets. Really, really enjoying those. I am having some issues with syncing props. I think that's been the major difficulty of this episode, is trying to get stuff to actually sit properly where the terrain goes really janky underneath the quays. But never mind. You can see, yeah, lots of people moving around. It's pretty cool. We've done some cool stuff in and amongst the houses here, like changed up the texture like we did last time in front of the houses, like in front of the sort of basement windows in these buildings. Again, not too sure that basements would be appropriate next to such an extensive canal network, but never mind. And yeah, we've got some nice little street corners as we go around, little back alleys with a touch of graffiti, touch of trash here or there as well. Lots of extra invisible parking chucked in these back streets too, to keep them a little bit busier. I did also squeeze in a playground, as you may have seen, in this back alley here as we come out onto the waterfront. I really like this effect actually, where I've kind of made the driveways, because I realised there we've all got garages on the bottom, extend out onto the road with some white lines around them. I think this works quite nicely. And incidentally, we actually haven't got anyone parking on the white lines at the moment. I don't know if that's going to stay that way or if that is just how it is, but that works pretty well. And then obviously we've got our little beachfront here, which I did decide to leave in the walls because I don't think they're too horrific in most places. We've still got this horrible jankiness going on with the pathways where we've intersected them, but I think it sort of works pretty nicely. But yeah, really nice shots looking down some of the canals. So yeah, pretty pleased with how it's come together, and the wider look of Fisher's Point, as you can see here, I think it blends in pretty seamlessly. We've obviously got this whole extensive area to do out the back next time, but for now I think that's a reasonably successful expansion. So for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. Keep your suggestions coming in the comments below. But that is all from me for now, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.